Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Ask the Trainer segment with the Animal Humane Society. Again, my name is Sam Weller. The topic for the day is a hot one. We're going to be talking about barking. And, you know, with barking, this is one of those behaviors that's pretty complicated at times. So there's a lot of people, we love our dogs to bark in some ways, but please stop barking. You let me know what was going on. I'm great with that. Now let's zip it. The trick is, how do we get them to zip it? How do we get them to stop barking once they start barking? That's the trick. With any behavior or a behavior that you consider to be a problem behavior, we want to be able to look at the context of why are they barking in the first place? What's going on? Is it an unseen sound that they heard that they might have been afraid of? Is it somebody coming to the door? Is it that pesky mailman? I bark at the mailman, I make him go away. Whew, that worked. I'm going to do the same thing again tomorrow. Meanwhile, the innocent mailman was just doing their business and didn't realize they might have heard they were being barked at, but they're going to continue to do their job, and the dog inside the house thinks they were doing their job. So there's different ways you can approach this. If you're a person that you can't handle any barking whatsoever, it might be something that you really want to consider before you even get a dog, because dogs are going to bark. It is at certain times in their life. There's, you could get a Basenji, a barkless dog, but they still vocalize in certain ways. So it is a way that dogs do communicate, and they might be communicating excitement. They might be anticipating something and getting more and more excited. They may be feeling a little territorial. They may be feeling a threat, and they might be letting us know about that, or they're just not sure about something. So there's all kinds of theories out there and about barking, but it is one of those, those topics it's easy to identify we have a problem behavior, but how do we go about solving it? So what I have done in the past, I have a border collie. You might have seen him on past segments. He's not here right now. His name is Zero, and he oftentimes lets me know when somebody comes over to the house. And instead of me yelling at him or trying to punish him for that behavior, oftentimes I thank him for letting me know that somebody's here. And oftentimes I'm going to use a more happy tone of voice. Is somebody here? And I'll oftentimes go right up to the window and look right out the window with him. And he, a lot of times he just looks back over to me like, huh. And then I'll talk in a soothing voice and calm him down. So I'm able to kind of manage that. Thanks for letting me know, but now let's stop barking. As he's walking away or as it diffuses, oftentimes I hear a little muffled woof come out of him because he just feels he needs to get the last word in. And I'm okay with that. At the same time, I have two dogs in the house, so Zero will start the show. Somebody's here, somebody's here. I have a big American Bulldog who has no idea why Zero's barking. He might even run to the wrong window and start barking because he just doesn't know what's going on. So then I diffuse both of those dogs. Another thing that you could do would be to teach alternate behaviors. So if you identify the things that your dogs are barking at, maybe we teach them to go pick up a toy when those sounds happen or when these events occur. Because if they're holding something in their mouth, it's a lot harder to bark. It still can be done. Trust me, my dog Zero has attempted that many times. He's holding a bone in his mouth, and he will still let out one every now and then, but it's a lot more muffled and a lot more quiet, and he doesn't persist with it. So another thing, and it's one of the things I've done, is he gets excited, he starts barking, and I'll thank him for that. He's still a little excited. He stops barking. I say, "Where's your chew?" And he goes and finds his chew toy, and he sits down there and he starts gnawing on his chew toy, because that chewing behavior is also self-calming. So he's starting to kind of regulate himself. So those are some of the ways I've done to deal with that. I don't recommend things like bark collars or any kinds of punishments like that, because you're trying to punish away their voice. And barking does indicate, act as a warning signal if they're not feeling comfortable about something. If you take their voice away, they're only left with their bite. So I don't recommend doing anything like that. I like to work with that dog and recognizing that there may be an emotional response, and working with that in an alternative, more positive way. The other thing that I will look at when the dogs are barking at something, I always watch their body language as well, because I want to kind of see, is their mouth really tight? Is that bark more of a high-pitched kind of whiny bark, or is it really low and feeling a little bit more intimidating? So, and I'll watch where their tail position is. Is their body really stiff? Is their body loose and wiggly? So I can kind of watch the whole scene and kind of tell how they're feeling about it. So, and that's really the keys of dealing with barking is, what are they barking at? Is it something they've seen, or is it something they saw? Now, an unheard, something that a sound is a little trickier because they come in unexpected times. So if they're barking at something out the window, you could close the drapes or deny access so they can't see that. But you can't always do that with sounds. So then you're left with trying to desensitize your dogs to those sounds, trying to recreate those sounds when they're at a lower volume, and really rewarding your dogs every time they hear that sound with something good and tasty. So let's see, we got some questions coming in, so that's good to see. And I'll get to those in a little bit. But so again, with barking, try to figure out what's going on in the environment. What are they barking at? Who are they barking at? And seeing how you can work with that behavior to stop it after a few barks and then redirect them to something else. So let's say you get them to stop barking, immediately get them onto something else. If you can get them doing some tricks, or get them to do some obedience, or get them out of that room, great. But if you get them to stop barking and it's like 1 or 2 seconds, and then just think it's okay, they may just run right back to it and start barking again. So keep them going on something. Manage the environment so they don't see it, or you can try desensitizing them to those noises that they hear. And there might be certain noises that are going to be more intense than others. So just try working with it that way. So there isn't, as complicated as it is, it's the solutions are fairly simple, but it's just hard to get them to be consistent about it. So again, my advice is to be okay with 2 or 3 barks, but then get them to stop barking, because it's kind of unrealistic to expect a dog to never vocalize. So I don't have a ton more to say about that. I'd like to take some questions on there. I do have one coming in from Isabel from Facebook, who's just tuning in. She was asking about, how do we deal with them barking at other dogs, even while playing? That's a good question. So if dogs are playing with other dogs and they start barking, their arousal levels might be just getting too high. So you might want to think about giving them more breaks during their play. And then, so as they play, their arousal levels may start here. As they're playing, they're starting to go up and up and up. The barking starts. And, it can keep escalating. So learn about how long that takes. If it starts right away, maybe we need to focus in on other games for the dogs to play, especially if it's being really disruptive to your neighbors and things. But if you can get them to play a little calmer, or even in different ways, they start going, we take a break. We get their arousal levels back down. Start playing, we take a break. We get their arousal levels back down. Other dogs are also going to be a lot more prone to be more vocal than other breeds. Herding breeds may just start barking as they're running, where other breeds out there, sporting breeds or toy breeds, they may be less vocal. But I've heard every dog breed out there bark while they're playing, and then I just try to manage that. But if they're barking at other dogs when they see them, let's say they're out in a fenced yard and they're barking, then it's about the same principle as barking at a mailman or barking at a visitor coming to your house. So it's in that backyard, and it's looking to be possibly a little bit more territorial barking. Again, supervise your dogs and teach another behavior, or counter condition them to see those dogs. They see the dogs out there. They see a person walking a dog. Praise that. Yes, and give them a cookie. Move them back from that area. They look back at them. Yes, you looked at them again. I see what you did. Give them another cookie for that. So that's a good question. Let's see. We got Misty coming in from Facebook. We have, our dog barks out of fear of meeting new people until he knows them well. How can we get him to be less fearful of new people and dogs so it doesn't bark so long? That's a good question. Thanks, Misty. So a lot of dogs will, they will, that fear bark. I'm glad you're recognizing that your dog is, number one, not feeling very comfortable about those new people. Have those new people, you can set that up, especially if they're going to be a person that's coming over to the house often. You can, before they even come into the house, you could meet them outside. You could have the new people just throw handfuls of cookies down so they start to associate when that particular person is coming over. It's going to mean something good. And if their body language and their barkings, you're not feeling very comfortable with it, then take them inside, or don't even have them meet initially until sometimes 10 or 15 minutes go by after they get to the house. They start feeling a little bit better about it, and then you can try, reintroducing again. But it all stems from, how can you make them feel better about that person? Can you pair that up with some food? Because that food is something positive towards something that they're not feeling so good about. So I seen that, and all of a sudden you handed me a $20 bill, aka hot dog or cheese or a piece of chicken. Give that higher value food to that thing that they're not so sure about, because it's the same as, me being unsure about something and somebody handing me one penny and saying, it's going to be okay. I don't want that penny. But if somebody was handing me a $20 bill, every time I saw something I wasn't so sure about, I would start to have different feelings about that thing. It would start to shift to something more positive. And every time I saw them, it'd be more, anticipating something good from happening. And then I can shift over to having them throw the cookies. There's a game I like to play with dogs that are a little shy with people. I will sit to the side, not make that eye contact. I'll have a little handful of cookies, and I'll throw the cookie. And it goes past the dog. The dog has to retreat away from me to go get that food. Now they have a choice. They go and get the food. They have a choice to either approach me or not to approach me. So I'm kind of giving them that choice to do that or not. I call it go away game, and it does a pretty good job at building trust. But just because I did this 5 times and the dog started to come a little closer and closer, doesn't mean it's time for me to reach out and meet that dog. I want the dog to through their body language tell me that they're ready for that interaction, and I'm going to let them choose. So if I do that one session and the dogs are no longer barking at me, I might quit while I'm ahead. Come back another day and do that, because I'd like to have them really build that positive anticipation about me. So I like to build that trust slowly. All right. Who else do we have? Do we have any from Instagram coming in?
Yeah, we have one from MH, I think. She's named. So she said, my dog barks in his crate when I leave my apartment. Neighbors are complaining that his barking can go on for hours. What can we do? He's 6 months old.
Okay. What's her name?
The username is MSH.
MSH?
Yep.
All right. That's a great question. And a lot of that stems from maybe being a little anxious about being left alone in that crate. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the question was, sorry, guys, is that my 6-month-old dog barks when I leave. And I believe she lives in an apartment too, and that can be problematic for your neighbors. having a dog that's sitting in their crate barking all the time. Well, we try to really work at getting those dogs to feel more comfortable in that crate. So, you know, before I have to leave for work, if I have time off and stuff, I start to build positive associations towards the crate. I might start feeding them their meals in the crate with the door open. I might, you know, if they're getting really high value treats and foods, give it to them in their crate. If you're playing games, sometimes that ball trickles into the crate. They run into the crate and get it out and leave. And then you can start to incorporate, you know, trying to, you know, actually build a cue to go into the crate, just like you would any other obedience skill. And once they're in there, maybe you're going to give them something a little longer lasting. You know, and a really common one people do give is like a Kong toy. You can stuff food in those. And a favorite thing to do would be to maybe put their kibble in their Kong, run it under some water so it gets wet, and maybe smear some peanut butter over the top, or maybe some cottage cheese, or something else that your dog can have. You know, yogurt is another option. Mashed potatoes, I've heard some people using. So I take that Kong, the kibble's wet. I'll shove like a straw through the middle of it, just so I make sure there's airflow going through the whole thing, and then put it in the freezer. And have a few of those, you know, in the freezer so you're always ready to go. And then when you're ready to practice this, take that out of the freezer, pull the straw out. Now you have airflow going through there. The reason I say to make sure there's always airflow going through that, because there's that small hole on the end, and if your dog sticks their tongue in there just right with a frozen one, it could create suction and they could get their tongue stuck in there. So make sure there's always airflow going through that, especially with a frozen Kong, because it's solid now. And then you can give them that Kong toy, shut the door, maybe go into another room, just making sure that they're not anxious about it, and then come open the door before you're ready, or before they finish. Then you can start doing that same exercise with you leaving for a little bit. Sometimes that act can take up to 20-30 minutes for some dogs to clear that Kong out, and that amount of time can help them feel a little bit better in that crate, because that initial response from you leaving is replaced with something positive, and they're actually having to work at that for a while, and so they can kind of settle down after 15, 20, 30 minutes go by, because they've been working on something. Now, there's a lot of different degrees of separation anxiety, and so what we were talking about with that crate is, you know, a form of separation and anxiety. They're anxious to be left alone. They're anxious to be left in that crate. So there's so many different, you know, levels of severity. If your dog is having, you know, more severe anxiety responses to being left in their crate, then you're going to need some more professional help. And maybe talking to your vet, talking to a CSAT trainer. A CSAT trainer is a certified separation anxiety trainer, and we do have one of those in our state, I believe. Her name is Allison Laminin. She'd be a good one to contact if you're having, you know, some more serious issues, or a veterinary behaviorist. So separation anxiety in barking in crates can be something. Sometimes it can be a little bit easier to deal with just through some of the steps I was talking about. Other times we have to take more, you know, additional steps to help them through that. I myself had a dog named Boom Boom that had some trouble in his crate for the first 3 months, and the steps I took was exactly what I was explaining before this, except for I also employed some daycare when I did have to go to work. I couldn't take him with me, so that I didn't leave him in the home, because he was having a straight up panic attack when I would leave, and he would try to get out of his crate. So I, you know, in combination with I used some over-the-counter calming supplements, as well as, you know, using Kongs, and really slow. It took me 3 months to get that under control, but now he loves that crate. He goes in there whenever he's not feeling confident about something. He just goes and lays down in his crate. So, it took some time, but I got there. And it was kind of a long answer, but you can always call me or call any of us trainers to talk a little bit more about that, and we can always, you know, get specific about your particular dog. So thanks for that question.
And what's the phone number?
For the Pet Helpline, 952 help. Yeah, help pet.
Okay, cool. We have one more from Instagram too, from Jungle Janie 5. My rescue dog barks every time my husband walks into a room. How should he or I respond? And I think he was kind of talked about something that might help.
Yeah, Jungle Janie 5 from Instagram is asking everybody about, like, when her husband walks into the room, her dog barks. You know, a rescue dog. I'm not sure how long you've had that dog. So again, there I want to interpret, you know, their body language, you know, with that as well. So, you know, I'm assuming that the dog is more alarmed and maybe a little more shy, maybe a little more fearful versus like, hey, I'm super happy to see you. So they might be a little more stiff and rigid. There again, it would be, you know, pairing up whenever your husband walks into the room with something really, really awesome without any expectations that I'm going to interact with you. No, I'm just going to give you something good with no expectations. It's going to be, once you start feeling better about me, you'll start soliciting some more attention from me. And just a little bit about managing that. You know, you could also teach an alternate behavior. She did bark. Okay, you barked. Here's something else to do. Go chew on something to calm down a little bit. Or I'm going to take you out of this, you know, away from here a little bit to help you calm down. I might even, you know, get some help from an in-home trainer just so they can see exactly what's going on with that, because I never want to fool around with the fact that a dog isn't really comfortable with another person. I want to take that seriously and get the best help I can. And sometimes somebody, either through a virtual private consultation, through Zoom or something like that, can see what's going on and help you interpret that body language a little bit better. So, but that's my thoughts on that. Good question. So you jump back over to a Facebook one. Okay, let's see here. We have Laura Johnston off Facebook, and she's asking, what thoughts do you have about collars that beep or vibrate to help discourage barking? All right, thank you for the question, Laura. Again, that collar isn't really helping them feel better about what they're barking at. It's more of a punishment-based method, even if it is a vibration, even if it is a beep, it's still aversive. So I would go, you know, my own approach is, you're up at the window barking at, I go up there and kind of almost celebrate it. Did you tell them? You know, if I go up there and I'm really loose versus yelling at them to stop barking, if I start yelling at them to stop barking, I might as well just be barking with them. So I would take a more positive approach to try to teach them an alternate behavior. So I wouldn't need a collar if I can teach my dog to go pick up a chew and go start chewing on his chew. So, you know, and that takes time. Anytime you're trying to make a dog feel better about, you know, a behavior or teach an alternate behavior, there's a time that you have to invest in that, and you have to teach them, you know, what to do. So, good question. Getting a lot of questions in here today. I love this. Corey Hoff off Facebook says, any tips for my dog who goes way over the top immediately when the mailman comes, FedEx, UPS truck even drives by? So she is way over her threshold immediately. Hair up, aggressive, nonstop barking till they are out of sight. She hears no command, has no interest in treats, even cheese her favorite. I just can't even get her attention. Keeping the blinds down isn't an option. She ruins them. Help. All right, Corey, I feel for you. So, you know, you may live on a busy block, and, you know, my solution at the time when I was single was I just kept my blinds shut all the time or my curtains closed all the time, and my dogs wouldn't bark because they wouldn't see anything. But then I got married, and suddenly I had to have light in the house for some reason. So then I had to work on this issue. And then with you here, your dog just tears through that because they probably hear the noise as well. So that sound probably triggers them to go to that window. And you're right, they go right through those curtains or right through those blinds. They tear them down. And you said something really key there. It goes over threshold, no longer able to hear, no longer capable of rational thought, no longer to feel better about that, because they're feeling either so territorial or so threatened that they just can't cope with that anymore. They really want that to go away. And it's worked for them. They've been barking at these things, and they go on, and they go away, and then they finally calm down. If, you know, and coupled with the description of body language you gave, your dog really isn't feeling very comfortable about these things at all. So I would be working on a heavy dose of management. If you can try to, you know, nail down schedules for certain things, you're going to be able to minimize that, because we can deny access to those areas at those certain times. We can keep your dog busy doing other things at certain times. That's, you know, that may sound easier said than done, especially with a FedEx, UPS, because they don't necessarily come on a schedule. But there's things that you could put over your window that's still going to let light in, but it's going to diminish that view that they see. And that would be, they sell it in like Menards and Home Depots and things like that. Is that you kind of just stick it on there on your window, and it's going to tint that to a point where your dogs don't see out as well. That's one thing you could do in combination of putting them on leash. And, you know, if your dog will bark at just another car that goes by, or another truck, you could just start to build that foundation up off of something that's a little easier to do. So maybe you're going to have a friend that drives up to your mailbox in a regular car. And then with your dog on leash, a little ways away from the window, so they're not right up next to it, you're going to give a brief glimpse. And then, you know, you might have to experiment with some other foods as well. I know cheese is a favorite, but if your dog always gets cheese, they're kind of used to cheese. But now if they're suddenly getting roast beef, that might be something different, something new and exciting to kind of help with that. You may also have to think about some other supplements that you can give to help reduce anxiety. So maybe a Daptil, a collar, or a diffuser that plugs in, or composure treats. You might want to talk to your vet about it, or also an in-home consultation to help you get a solid plan down in your particular case, because it does sound pretty intense. So another thing an in-home trainer can help you do is kind of look at the environment that you have and offer some suggestions on how you can actually manage that. You know, another favorite thing to do is to find some other favorite activity that they really love to do, and to be working a lot of puzzle toys, brain games. You know, maybe they're playing hide and seek with treats and they're really busy. I really like working, you know, dogs on scent. So, and if they really build a drive to that, they get obedient to it. So it doesn't matter what outside distractions are happening, they have to sniff that out to its source. So doing some, you know, some types of scent games could help as well. All right, let's try another one. We got one from Instagram.
Yeah, so this isn't related to barking, but it's one that I think that people will relate to. So Jenny said, how do I stop my dog from chasing the cats?
We've got a cat chaser. Okay, what was her name again? Jenny off Instagram. So asking about chasing cats. So offer some areas where your cats can get away and your dogs can't have access to, for one. You know, how is your dog chasing the cats? Does it look, you know, does it look more prey driven, or does it look more playful? If it's something that might be a little more playful, then I would definitely have some baby gates, you know, in place where your dogs could, where they don't have access to. So maybe some, you know, elevated stepping surfaces that they can get up to, cat trees that your dogs can't get to, and baby gates. I have a couple of baby gates in my house. I actually put in some cat doors on my doors, so and I have some doors that are closed where my cats can go, my dogs can't. Because most of the time, 99% of the time, my dogs and cats coexist perfectly. But every now and then, so my cat might be doing something. My border collie says you can't have my toy and tears off, but then my cat just boop right through one of those little doors. So my cat always has an escape route. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Because some people are saying on there that we don't know what I'm saying. Where are the captions?
And we will provide a caption version on Facebook and YouTube after the fact, but we're just unable to caption a live video.
Okay. Maria, I know you can't hear what I'm saying very well, but after this live version is done, they're going to be putting caption on another when they release that, so that you can play it back and there'll be captions. Okay. Okay, Amy Jones off of Facebook. My dog barks when there is food out. How do I get him to stop? So, your dog loves food a lot. So, and they get really excited about that food. So, and that's a tricky one because we have to feed our dogs. If it's at feeding time and your dog starts barking nonstop. I had a lab that did that, and it took me, it actually took me longer than I wanted it to, because every time she started barking, I had to put the food away. And then I would go back, take another step towards the food, she'd start barking, and I'd walk away from the food, my container. And eventually, she started to learn that if she kept quiet, I took more steps towards the food container, and I'd actually reach in, get a scoop out, she'd start barking, I'd put the scoop back, and I'd leave. And then I'd come back and try it again when she was quiet. So it's a game that takes a while to get down. At least it did for me and my black lab, because she was just so crazy for food. It took her a while for that light bulb to click with her. And then even after that, sometimes she would still do it, but not as much. And then I would ask for other behaviors. One thing, my bulldog has a hard time barking when he's laying down and he's got his chin on the floor. So if you taught your dogs to put their chin on the floor and down while they're waiting for their food, it's harder to bark. Or you could spread their meals out with puzzle toys, or just ask for different behaviors for some of that food. But that's a good question, Amy. Let's see, and then you have a follow-up. Amy from Facebook is also saying, barks while humans are eating dinner. Dinner time is loud at our house. Okay, so there's another, that's another thing where maybe I'd manage that a little bit at the start, because you can't just instantly teach an alternate behavior and they're not automatically good at it. So maybe I'm going to use a kennel or a crate and give you something to chew on. Maybe that's a good time to give one of them stuffed Kongs. So your dog is getting something good while they're working on it, and you guys are eating dinner. So it might be maybe adjusting your dog's time that they eat their food and how they actually eat their food. Instead of eating out of a food bowl that takes them 15 or 20 seconds, maybe it's a frozen Kong that takes them 20 minutes. And then you're kind of managing that. So that might help you out, Amy. Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Child 89 asked how adoption is working right now. Sam, can you speak to that at all? Or do you want to?
You're welcome, Amy. What's her name?
It's Child 89 asking how adoption is working right now. Can people come and check out who's available?
Okay. Moonchild89 from Instagram is wondering how adoption process is working here at the Animal Humane Society at the moment. Right now we're doing appointment, so adoption by appointment, and you can always look on our website. You find a dog that you're interested in, you can call and make an appointment to visit with that animal, and they'll set that up for you. And then after that, I'm not sure if I think our hold process, you might put the animal on hold and go home and think about it. You could call us up at the Pet Helpline if you have some more specific questions about that. But right now, to answer at the most basic level, it's by appointment. Thank you for the question. All right. I think we might be wrapping it up for the day. So you guys, really nice to be here with you again, talking about barking, and we will see you all next time.